I give myself like $100 budget, and it's half the time it's working inside of that to creatively problem solve, what the best thing to do is. I don't believe that more money solves any problems. I think more money can just make more expensive problems. And I think the key is to do the best you have with what you have right now.
Hey guys, welcome to the Business and Bootstrapping Podcast, where we believe in busting your ass and bootstrapping your startup to build the business and life of your dreams. I'm your host, Matt Ward, and if you enjoyed the show today, please check us out at businessandbootstrapping.com to get more great tips, tricks, and interviews with successful entrepreneurs. Thanks, and let's get started. Hey guys, I know you're pretty excited to get into the interview with Jamie Bowerman, but first we've got to give a shout out to some people who've been leaving podcast reviews. I really appreciate them doing it, and of course they're going to get on the show. So first we've got SG Raptor saying 5 stars for business majors. For anyone who wants to start a business, this podcast has the best advice. Highly advise listening to the podcast. Loved it. Thanks, Raptor. And now we've got, Bahama Mama 3. 5 stars. Extremely helpful. So glad I found this podcast. Great variety of interviews with entrepreneurs around the world. Excellent source of information for anybody looking to break out of the corporate nightmare and venture out on their own. Well, I love hearing from that, and you have an awesome name. And finally, we got 5 stars. It's great from JBoy34. He said he loved this, very practical and authentic. Gave me some great insight that's very applicable into my business practice. Thank you so much. Thanks, guys. I hope you guys love that. I know that I feel amazing reading that out, and it really gets me to keep going on the podcast. Now let's get right into the interview with Jamie. Hey guys, welcome to the Business and Bootstrapping Podcast. Today I'm pretty excited to talk to Jamie Bowerman over at Bowerman Bags. And he's working to bring another Kickstarter program to life. He's a designer and an entrepreneur, and he's created something pretty spectacular. I wanted to get him on the show today to share his experience with bringing a product to market and really taking something from idea all the way to consumer. So thanks so much for coming today, Jamie.
Matt, thanks for having me on. We're ecstatic to be talking with you, and our product is Bower Bags, and you can check us out at www.bowerbags.com.
And guys, I originally got introduced to Jamie through a mutual friend. He was looking for a little bit of help with engineering. He had some questions about product he was working on, and I tried and ultimately failed to help him. But Jamie, let's jump right into Bower Bags. That's why you're on this show. That's what you're working on. You're a designer. What motivated you to create Bower Bags? What was the vision behind the company?
Sure. I'm going to backtrack slightly and just tell you that actually you didn't fail at all. Everything you did to help out was incredibly useful. And thanks to people like yourself, it has helped me on a professional and personal level, keep going even when I hit road bumps, which are always inevitable. What inspired me, or the original spark that started Bower Bags, was in about 2011, taking an intro class at Savannah College of Art and Design for my industrial design major. And we were sort of challenged to look at ways to carry things without the use of a car. A friend of mine in the class had actually just gotten hit on his bike with a car. And I was playing around with a bunch of different things. Frankly, I was actually leaving school and going into work, at night, and then leaving work and going back home. And I was always kind of making these quick transitions between different places. And every time I was leaving to go somewhere else, I was always wishing I either had, a messenger bag for work or a backpack for school, and kind of all these different situations I found myself in. I was wishing that I had all these different carrying devices. And so ultimately, from the sort of desire to have this one end-all be-all bag, and sort of while tinkering with these things in grad school, the end result has been what you see today, which is Bower Bags, which is, just sorry to answer your question, is actually it's actually the most diverse modular carrying system on the market today.
Yeah, you can customize it however you want, and that's one of the cool things about the bag. But really what I wanted to focus on first, you've taken this vision, you've got this small idea for a product, something that is kind of a personal pain. What did you do to vet the idea? What did you do in terms of customer discovery to find out if people were interested, if they had similar pains, and if they would buy your product?
Sure. So that's a great question. I think no matter what you make in this world, I've been doing products now for, It's been, I think the first one I started with was in '07. So it's been the better part of a decade, and I was doing stuff before that. So just shy of a decade, I've been developing products and working to bring different products to the market. And one thing when I started out that my first product ever was a configurable pool toy. I remember asking this other industrial designer, what he thought. And he said, well, I think it's great, but, I would have never told you that the pet rock, would have been a success. And so I think it was a great example early on that it really is all about customer discovery. And what's nice is that in this day and age, in the 21st century, I feel like even since I started developing products, the amount of feedback we're able to get through different platforms sort of instantaneously is really amazing. And so how I started was there was a local competition here in Savannah, Georgia, that's put on by the Creative Coast called Fast Pitch, which is a great opportunity for students, professionals, early entrepreneurs, kind of wherever you are. I mean, I think in my case, I entered under the student category, which was really great because, you pitch this huge audience of people, and that was where I got my first customer discovery. So what I did was I entered the competition. I'd never done anything like it before. You get up there and you pitch for 3 to 3.5 minutes your product, idea, or service. And I actually wound up winning in that category. And afterwards, people wanted to come up. People were coming up to me asking where they could buy the product. And so that was where I knew, then and there that I was onto something. So from there, it really became a matter of, okay, I started this contest, and it was just with an idea, and I had this very Frankenstein-looking bag that I'd sewn over a weekend, and that sort of began the journey of how to take what was in my head, put it out there, not just as a prototype, but go ahead and take it into the manufacturing process, which is just a whole different ball of wax any way you cut it.
I like that you brought up the fact that you sewed this over a weekend. You really just got something out there. It's kind of that minimum viable product concept. And I wanted to ask you a bit about that in terms of products, actual physical products. I know a lot of times the MVP model is paraded around for people that are more in the tech space. But in terms of putting out something real, something physical that has to be manufactured, how do you go about getting those prototypes out there to get in the hands of consumers as quickly as possible?
That's a great question. And I feel like this is a conversation that is eternally evolving with the times. And so in my case, I did the best I could with what I had right then and there to put together, a bag. And I keep that bag with me. It's actually at my feet right now. It is probably one of the ugliest looking things you've ever seen. And certainly, wasn't winning me any awards for aesthetic purposes. But what it did, which was great, is it allowed me to demonstrate the concept to people that I was pitching. And that, that's, I think, that is what I think it always takes, particularly with consumer products. I mean, I guess it's true of any product, frankly. It doesn't matter whether you're making a mobile app or whatever. You have to be able to have something, to show people something that they can latch onto to see what the user experience is. And so when I was demoing this product, even though it was really horrifically ugly, which is funny, in the space of soft goods, it's really, aesthetics are like 90% of the battle, seemingly. It was just enough to go ahead and do the demo for people so that they understood, the higher concept of the product was, that it wasn't just a bag, that it transformed into 3 different bags at the time. Now I think it transforms into, I've kind of lost count. You can really combine it in any ways that you can come up with or imagine. But to get a minimum viable, product out there, it's key. And I think, at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be, I think the question I always stop and ask myself, even to this day, is what do I have right now to do the best I can in this now moment, not with unlimited budget, not with whatever. In most cases, I give myself like $100 budget, and it's half the time it's working inside of that to creatively problem solve, what the best thing to do is. I don't believe that more money solves any problems. I think more money can just make more expensive problems. And I think the key is to do the best you have with what you have right now, to quote Eleanor Roosevelt, and then just get it out there and test it, fail early, fail often, fail fast. And through that, you'll sort of quickly get to whatever, the market is really looking for, or whatever, your niche market is. I think that really helps you determine where to run from there.
So demos, putting it on, pitching, these things are hard, but these are so important for sales, especially in a physical product where you have to demonstrate it. What do you say to people in your position where they might be young or they're terrified of doing this, but you've got to get out there. You've got to get your product in front of people and demonstrate it. How do you maximize that exposure and really sell the product, make that the hero?
Yeah, so I was a bit fortunate in this way, and I tend to give sort of long explanations, mainly because I think it's important for people when they're starting out. There's this story that gets told when something has really reached its apex, and it's usually this very glossy, well-polished story where, these amazing things happened, or one person did it by themselves, or it's sort of these scenarios that I think leave the average person saying, well, that's not me, or, that I didn't have these set of circumstances. And
I heard the greatest quote ever for this, and it's that stop comparing your daily life to other people's highlight reel. But that's, what you're saying completely.
Oh, 100%. And so, where I'm going with this is basically there was no sort of, that was the easiest alternative to me. And I can tell you that if I had actually known that what the event Fast Pitch would have been when I signed up for it, I might have not, frankly, I don't think I would have done it. When I signed up, I thought, well, it'll probably be, 4 or 5 judges in a room, maybe there'll be a video camera and yada, it'll be I don't know, maybe they'll rent like a small space in a hotel room for a day, like a Holiday Inn, like a business meeting. And when I got there and saw that it was, 200 to 300 people crammed in a room, 45 judges, and it was enormous. I can't tell you how nervous I was. And I remember, sitting there in this line of seats, waiting to go up. And I was very lucky. I had a really sweet and dear friend next to me by the name of Robin. I had no idea who was going to be there. I hadn't told anyone that I signed up. And so I got to sit next to her, which was great. And she looked over at me and she said, just calm down, like no big deal. And I think that there's really no getting around, the fear that we feel as humans, when you're standing up in front of a room talking. I mean, I remember when I pitched, I think the reason why I was successful was that I had spent so much time before repeating my pitch over and over and over and over that when I was actually up there, it was very much like that scene from Old School where Will Ferrell gets up, James Carville, and he just kind of blacks out. That's actually what it felt like, because I remember standing there in front of all these people, and it was a bit of a blur. And I remember I was talking, but you sort of distinctly had this feeling of being outside of my body, not like from 20 or 30 feet away watching, but just sort of not totally being, in my body. And I think at that time I was just so terrified. And I just remember I was just kind of, my brain sort of went into autopilot, and I was saying what I knew so well because I'd rehearsed it in my body probably 1,000 times. And so that when that happened, I went into autopilot, and people responded really well. I mean, it was a good pitch. I took a lot of time and asked a lot of people the best way to craft it, but there was just no easy way getting over that. You just have to do it. And so, since then I've probably demoed to, goodness gracious, I mean, it's somewhere in the thousands, somewhere between 5 to 10. I couldn't even tell you, between all the, whether it's a crowdfunding festival or whether it's, to investors or whether it's, to large audiences. And, even to this day, every time I go in front of a large audience and there's cameras and it's, it's sort of like lights, cameras, actions, I always feel the fear. And I think that courage really, it's not the absence of fear, it's the presence of fear and the willingness to move forward. Ultimately, for me, my wanting to, I'd been so frustrated for so long, having come so close to different licensing deals. Ultimately, my desire to put out what was inside my head in the world to see if it had, if people had interest in it, was far greater than, my fear of staying, or, my fear of getting up in front of talking to people. And that said, a lot of people went up there, and some people had, that you could see them kind of crumble in front of the audience. And so one thing I always tell people is, just practice a lot. It's like there's only one way to get to Carnegie Hall. And at the end of the day, whether trying to get to Carnegie Hall or just pitching your idea. There's no fast track. It's just, practice, practice, practice.
So you mentioned crowdfunding, and I wanted to go into Kickstarter. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and the campaign you guys ran initially?
Yeah, so basically what happened was, I won this local competition, and the response was fantastic, and people were taking a lot of interest in what I was doing. I was really getting hammered with a lot of basic questions on, who's your customer and how are you going to launch this? And really just, once again, I got incredibly frustrated, and sort of through just different friends and neighbors or whatever, I kept probably 2 or 3 times in the course of, 72 hours, I kept hearing about this site Kickstarter. And at that time, Kickstarter, I think, had been out for about a year. And people were just saying, there's this new thing where people put their stuff on there to raise money for it. And I thought, wow, what a novel idea, because I was so tired of answering these same old questions over and over and feeling like every time that I was being really clear about what I was saying, but maybe it just wasn't registering on the other side of the table. A lot of the investors in this area tend to be people who have had a lot of success or successful careers. So whether it was a generational divide or, whatever it was, I just got frustrated. And so I set up this project and, put it out on Kickstarter and really lucked out. The New York Times had just run a huge Sunday piece on Kickstarter, really explaining, I think, to the world once and for all what it was. And I would attach that to the emails I would send out when I started. I just figured, I guess much like showing up that competition, I figured, why not? What do I have to lose? Putting it out there was certainly far less terrifying for me than storing it away on a shelf and never letting it see the light of day.
Regrets are the biggest failure. So you put it out there and you go for a campaign of $8,000. You're shooting to get that much money. How'd you go about pricing out what you needed in order to really make it a success?
So yeah, this was another interesting story. So basically what I determined starting out was I wanted to create jobs locally in my community. And so I found a factory that was the closest factory that I could find to Savannah. It's about 2 to 2.5 hours away. It's probably somewhere right in between you and I right now as we're having this conversation. You look on a map. And so it was really difficult to get in there with them. I had a really hard time getting them to take me seriously. And so after a series of, sort of politely being pushed aside, I was finally able to talk to some people, to talk to some other people that knew people there to, that they were willing to at least give me a shot. And I went and asked them, how much money do you guys, what is the minimum amount of money it takes for you guys to do a manufacturing run of this product? And they said, we like to get about $8,000. And I said, okay, I'm going to go raise $8,000. And that was how I set my number. Looking back on that, I would probably have been a lot smarter on things, shipping overseas and things of that nature being one of them. But, at the time, Kickstarter was a very different place than it is today. There was certainly no blogs or write-ups or advice on, what to do or how to do it or, things of that nature. So I sort of trial by fire, I suppose.
Okay, so you put the campaign out there and you get 111% of your goal. You do much better than most Kickstarter campaigns. You're ready to roll. What happens next? What happens after you complete a Kickstarter campaign?
Well, there's a little bit of time before the funding goes through. There's sort of, for me personally, as I'm sure there is with everyone, this enormous sigh of relief as being in a campaign right now where we're going out to raise, significantly more than our first campaign. There's this big, oh, we did it, and then that's immediately followed by really what I see as the hard part. And so that, was getting the final samples approved, getting our spot on the floor with the manufacturer, and kind of going from there. There were some alterations that were made before we finally got into production, and it became a real issue because, we kept getting pushed. Our slot kept getting pushed on the production floor, and it was tough, so it took us a lot longer to deliver than I was anticipating starting out. But again, we definitely learned a lot from it, so no complaints there.
So you mentioned another campaign, and I know you're starting another one. You're shooting for a bit bigger budget. What are some of the problems or issues you learned with the initial campaign that you're going to kind of craft or change in this new one to have even more success?
Yeah, so one thing I've learned was, we've set up with a different manufacturer for this run, which I'm very excited about. We've done samples with them. The stuff is great. I really like, what they've put out. They're very, I think one of the issues, or I say issues, I think one of the things for me, looking back on it, the energy starting out with our first manufacturer was honestly equivalent to that of me having to beat their door down to give them money to do the run. Whereas learning from that, we found, manufacturers who, are excited to work with companies that are in sort of their adolescence or, moving out of the garage or startups into small businesses. And that has been a big shift in sort of the quality of the experience, certainly for me personally and definitely for the company on a whole.
Where are you guys going to be sourcing your products?
So there's a number of different places a number of different factories we've made connections with to work with so that the experience starting out, wouldn't really be recreated. Right now we work with a group out of the Philippines. They've been fantastic, and they actually started with O'Neill when they were just out of their garage, and they really helped them grow. And so we felt that because of their expertise in the culture of startups, and that, they weren't a company or a factory that was looking, to get, they weren't going to push us for huge orders. They really understand, what our needs are and what our customers need. And so they've been really helpful in helping us to craft, a business plan that's designed for growth, I should say.
Have you had any challenges outsourcing that overseas? And would you recommend that to other people getting started in production?
It's, we were lucky in that we really reached out to our own network internally and people that we knew that had experience manufacturing, and they were able to just recommend some people to us. And so that's great. There's other sites that are fantastic, like mfg.com. I think with overseas, a lot of it is, like anything else, it's sort of through friends and family connections. Everybody feels a lot better. It doesn't mean to say that you can't find somebody great just going on MFG or any other sites that will connect you. At the end of the day, it's really who and what works best for you. I've heard some horror stories. I've heard some amazing stories. I feel very blessed in that the people we work with have a phenomenal track record, and people in our sources that we trust here and people with 10, 20 years in bag design have expressed that the factory connections we have are some of the best connections that they've made in 10 years of doing business overseas. So we feel very, very fortunate.
So James, we were talking before the interview about saving money, about how you're living in your apartment, you're working out of your apartment, and talking about travel. Why are you guys located in Savannah, Georgia? Why not go somewhere less expensive? Even like the Philippines, get close to your factory, at least for those initial few years, somewhere where your money will make a bit more of a run. Yeah,
it's funny. So you and I were just talking about that, and it was sort of our catalyst to actually just start rolling tape on this. So interestingly enough, just because a lot of the investors that we've been talking to, and frankly our consumer base was here in the States, and our families were here, and sort of our team members are all here in the U.S. We all met in Savannah, Georgia, mostly through the college system here. And so this has just been home for us, and it's been a great place, when we need help or when we're looking to get distribution. Or I think one thing that's important for all startups is, who do you turn to when things aren't working out? Who do you go to for help? Who are your mentors? Who's in your network that you trust, or who do you have access to that you can either bounce some stuff off of or help kind of get you over any hurdles that you might experience. So I would say the one thing that has up to present kept us here is because our pool of talent has been here, and we draw a lot of strength from the community and the arts resources here in Savannah. We're currently looking at other places like Pittsburgh and other communities that are having large established funds that are completely into consumer products and things of that nature.
Do you think you need funding?
I don't know. It's sort of ironic. I think for a long time, I was always thinking like, well, if we got funding, then we could make more stuff. And if we make more stuff, we'll sell more stuff, and sort of so on and so forth. And everyone always says it's like you get money when you don't need it. And so I think part of the whole thing about going back on Kickstarter again was, we just wanted to pick up that lost traction and really showcase, how amazing the new product line is and how versatile it is compared to anything else out there, which is great. And I think that in the future and going forward, we hope, obviously, you never know. We still have 34 more days. We hope it's wildly successful. We've seen a lot of other products and things get funding, and they don't do a fraction of what Bower Bags does. And that's fine. Our system is, because you can do so many things with it, it's actually, frankly, a challenge to explain all that. And so sometimes it's hard just communicating that to our customers or to our backers or to our consumers or whoever. Once people get it, it clicks pretty well. And so ultimately, I think, in the future going forward, there will be longer stays in the countries in which our factories and factory connections are located. And it'll sort of just be a split differential of good heavy travel in one part of the year and kind of being back stateside and things like that for the other part. And we really look forward to it. What we were talking about before, why not just pick up and go where it's a cheaper cost of living? I honestly couldn't really say. It wasn't an option that we had really explored. We've kind of gone the traditional route and then really looked at different accelerator programs, although websites like, the Global Accelerator Network give you access to places sort of all over. So I think, when I'd started out, if I were to be totally honest with you, I was just so green. I was someone that had an idea that people seemed to really enjoy, and I just really wanted to put it out in the world and share it with everybody and hope that they found it as interesting as I did. I hadn't really ever thought about like, well, what if I just picked up right now and went to Southeast Asia or went to India or went to a different part of the country? It was right there. And obviously I'm still in the middle of all this, so it's hard to really give a perspective on something while it's still happening. I don't have any regrets, although I do think, knowing what I know now and going back on it, that's a great way to start out in a consumer product space. I mean, ultimately, there's still the challenge of shipping and drop shipping and making sure you get product, to your customers and things of that nature. But just heading to where you'll be doing your manufacturing and heading to where it's happening and just setting up shop for a number of years is a pretty great idea.
So shipping challenges, what are you guys doing in terms of holding your inventory, in terms of fulfilling that to your customers? Is that something you're doing on an individual basis, or do you have like a shipwire? Where are you guys at? Yeah,
so we sort of split it up. I mean, we're just kind of getting into third-party fulfillment. Obviously, when you have a product and you're started shipping in, the hundreds of thousands, it's really best to just have third-party fulfillment. There's Amazon, there's Shipwire. I mean, there's a number of places out there. For some items, for sort of smaller stuff, we'll go ahead and just say, well, send a few hundred here and we can just ship them out. Ultimately, to pass the savings on to our consumer for now. Although I will say from experience that packing and shipping a lot of boxes from your own space, it does interfere with performing other tasks that for us, we're not, shipping's important, but we're not a company that's focusing on, shipping isn't the primary concern of ours. It's,
You guys aren't UPS.
Exactly. We're not UPS. We're not FedEx. We're not any of those guys. And so, we want to give the best product and experience to our customers. And so shipping just becomes this necessary tertiary part. So I personally think anything like that that's not part of the core business model, automate it as fast as possible.
So you guys have a pretty awesome product. Why is the price point only $99?
So actually, you might be looking at, the old ones were $99. We were selling those basically at cost. In fact, I need to change that because it's just not only did I lose a bunch of money just testing out the idea to get that particular product made in America at $99 is actually literally a steal. So you need to change that around. You can go into our site when you go on the Kickstarter or directly in there. You can see we've modified our pricing to reflect the cost of these products. So it's actually, right now we have our bike bag which is around, I think it's around 90. Forgive me, I have to go in and double check, but it's sort of comparable to our original product. And so the original, actually, that was part of the whole thing, was we wanted to give people a really good deal to test that the idea was valid. And now that it has, I should probably stop giving them away effectively.
Yeah. Have you heard of Jimmy and Doug over with the Manal bag? They have something, it's not the same, it's more geared towards travel, but it's a similar sort of concept with functionality.
Yeah, those guys, they did really well, and they make a great bag. They were actually kind of inspiring when I was looking at, what do we do? How do we want to do this next round for funding? Do we want to use investors? Do we want to go back out on Kickstarter? And they were, I felt like an example of two guys that had a lot of success in that space with bags. So they were sort of an inspiration one way or another, I guess. Although at the same time, it does seem like the Kickstarter's changed quite a bit, where products like bags, they seem to be doing pretty well as long as you're connecting with your core audience.
Would you ever want a connection with them or some other guys in the e-commerce industry? I've been trying to build up my network a bit with the podcast, and I've got some pretty close friends. I think they'd probably be interested in talking to you, seeing where you're at. Yeah,
that'd be great. I mean, we love talking to everybody. One of the biggest challenges, it's kind of funny. I feel like sometimes the short answer is yes, that'd be fantastic. We've sort of carved out our own little niche in the market. And
what is your niche?
Our niche is, what's kind of funny is our niche is really uniquely our own. We offer a series of patented designs and patented technologies kind of in the space that allow you to have a completely modular and transformable carrying system. And so you can design that entirely your lifestyle. So that's sort of our special little place. A lot of other people, they have some different transformation, which is great. Ours is unique in that way, and it's particularly useful if you lead a really active lifestyle. So,
do you have challenges with all of the different types of? Essentially, there's a lot of different components. There's a lot of parts that goes into this. It's a hard to make bag. There's a lot of accessories. Do you have challenges with getting production up and running, or even just selling the product, trying to explain how it works?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. That's a big challenge is when you have something, it's almost like, it's kind of weird to say, but it's almost like when you give people too many options, it becomes overwhelming. And so it's sort of like we, as human beings, we really just enjoy a very simple message. And so, one of the challenges in offering a system that can do so much was, how do you simplify that? So our tagline, "Make it yours," is designed to let people know they can design that to their lifestyle. And effectively, we just provide a whole lot of video and tutorials, and we try to keep it fun and light. And we hope people will love the product as much as we do.
Yeah, speaking of fun and light, I saw your Kickstarter campaign, and I was checking out the video. You guys, what was the production cost on that? It seemed pretty high quality. It seemed like you were going kind of for a more humorous, almost $5 or the Shave Club approach.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the Dollar Shave Club is probably, it's certainly one of, I won't say, that's necessarily the greatest, but it's got to be up there. We'll just go ahead and call it one of the, the funniest promotional videos, in my opinion, of all time. And I think most of us would agree.
Most definitely.
Yeah, he just, they just killed it. So we weren't really trying to just let our product and our team and what we're doing is uniquely our own. And at the end of the day, I think, with the Dollar Shave Club, I think that's sort of the holy grail of funny videos. And with ours, I think it's nice. It's really, again, it's encouraging to see a video like that, to see that, you can be funny and be yourself and have fun with what you're doing and connect with your audience in a meaningful way. And so in that way, we tried to obviously take that approach. We just kind of wanted to have fun with it. Josh Crandall, one of the co-founders here, I really have to credit him with all the humor. Matt Niehoff and all the guys at Thoughtfly Productions really made it possible to have a video that's as amazingly high quality as it is. I'm very lucky in that I have a lot of talented friends who are very supportive of Bower Bags and what we do.
Would you advise people that are trying to do their own Kickstarter to outsource the production of the video like you guys did for your second round? Or should you try to film that yourself, try to make it yourself and save the cash?
I can't really say. I think everyone has to sort of determine what approach is best for them. I for myself and for our team, we're good with video and we shoot a lot of things ourselves. We're just not necessarily the best compared to a lot of our peers. And so in those cases, always just ask if somebody's available or has some time. And if you can get a professional and to help you out, I always encourage it. Just because at the end of the day, someone once told me a crappy idea presented beautifully is better than a brilliant idea presented poorly. And so we really just wanted to try to put our bag and our system in a light that, where obviously we don't take ourselves too seriously. We're not curing cancer. We're not saving the whales. We make backpacks and we love doing it. And we hope that people, love the bag obviously as much as we do and enjoy the versatility and being able to change their lifestyle. Although, whether or not you want to shoot it yourself or have somebody else do it, I think it's just totally up to you. I've seen some people shoot at-home videos that have a feel and a personality and an energy that you just can't recreate. And it always kind of gets me right in the chest, and it just connects. And I think that's really what it's about. It was, how do you feel like it's best to connect with your audience? For this particular launch, we felt like the best thing to do to connect with our audience, because we're not scared to poke fun at ourselves and because we're not afraid, to kind of present ourselves in a very human way, was that it was probably a good idea to at least, have the quality of the material we put out be as professional as we can be, so that people will know that we're serious about what we're doing. We just like to have fun while we're doing it.
What are you guys doing about marketing the new product, marketing the new campaign?
Newsletters, PR. I mean, right now we're kind of at that place where we need to really hammer it to all the blogs and just get the word out there. I think part of the success of anyone's campaign is just getting as many eyes on it as possible. And so, getting larger formats. Carryology was very kind and just, put it up on their Facebook page today, which is great. And I think there was a couple other smaller blogs and posts who picked us up, on our second, third day. And so we're really hopeful that, as we're gaining more momentum and as we are putting it under other people's noses, they'll begin to see what we're doing and hopefully talk about it to their networks, and that'll help spread the word.
What would you recommend to people that are interested in starting their own Kickstarter program? They're interested in getting their own product created. They've got a cool idea, but they're not sure what to do.
Yeah, I mean, for me, what it came down to was I live, breathe, eat, sleep. This is what I think about all the time. I'm just perpetually, we're sort of always working on these innovative, solutions to carrying devices and trying our best to provide a system that allows the user to have the most freedom in how they carry their materials. I think if we didn't have that passion, I would probably just say, let's just get 9 to 5s and call it a day. So I think where I'm going with that is, first and foremost, just love what you do, be passionate about it, because there's no shortcuts. There's really no, there's no quick money. There's no fast money. There's really no easy way to do it. And so, inevitably, I think in all business or in all campaigns or in anything you're doing, there's pain points or roadblocks or hurdles, challenges, whatever you want to call them. And it's really the love of what you do and wanting to see it exist and just being so enthusiastic about it. That's what's going to carry you through when things get tough. My experience has been, doesn't matter what you do, things always get tough. And so if you love what you do, it'll pull you through that.
So there's a debate in the entrepreneurship community, and it kind of looks like I know where you fall, but I just wanted to definitely get your feedback on this. There's a debate between kind of a logical formation of a business, like taking customer discovery, looking at pains that people have and creating a solution, versus creating something that really scratches your own itch, something that you love. For someone starting out, they want to start a business. What would you advocate? And if so, why?
Well, I probably made this pretty transparent. I'm a scratch your own itch kind of guy, for better or worse. I don't necessarily always encourage everyone else to be that way. I think I've seen some brilliant, there's some brilliant things in this world that were just, people addressing a problem and solving it. I think a lot of the stuff that I gravitate towards, and clearly we as a company gravitate towards, are kind of working with I think having a certain amount of skin in the game, quote unquote, on this, where you can really identify with what's happening. Personally, I feel like that lends to a better outcome. So I think it's a bit of both. I think if you have, this sort of personal itch to scratch, and then you can really prove that other people have that same itch, then I really think you're onto something there.
I think that's a good way to do it, too. How big is your company at this point? How big's the team?
Right now, we have about 4 full-time, and then we have, that's sort of our core group, which I feel very blessed to be a part of. And then we have about 5 or 6 different people that will come in from time to time, different freelance things here and there. So, we're still small, and, as we grow, we're hoping that some people that are freelance will be able to come in, more full-time, and we're just going to kind of see where the chips fall. And, a lot of stuff is really being sorted out now as we speak.
You mentioned licensing earlier. Is that something you guys are thinking about doing? Bringing your technology to some of the big brands?
Really my goal was to just run with it for a few years and try to, sell to a bigger brand. I think if we were approached by someone that was interested in licensing, we would absolutely have the conversation and talk about it and see if it was a good fit. I think one of the reasons we've gone on this way for so long was that if we didn't continue on the path we were on, I really don't think that a bigger brand would have brought the product that we have to market. Certainly not the way we have. At least I can stand firm on that one, right? But I think sometimes one of the issues I had in working in larger companies or corporate is, everybody wants to be innovative. Everyone will say innovative. I think that word actually gets used in more mission statements than any other word. Don't quote me on that, although someone was saying that the other day, and I respect this person's opinion, although I didn't fact check them. Point being, though, is that, no company is going to say, you know what, we're not the most innovative. In fact, we're far from it. In my opinion, the reality of it is real innovation in my eyes. Does it happen in big companies? Sure, it happens every day. I mean, huge mega giants are putting out some of the most innovative things we can imagine in tech and hardware. And at the same time, there's this other group, and I feel like that's what we're a part of, that build things because they love it, or solve problems because it was something they experienced and found out that other people experience it too. And I guess I won't say that innovation can happen anywhere. I guess my favorite innovations, and I feel like some of the really interesting kind of game-changing stuff, comes from the people that are in their garage, the people that start at home, that inside of a big corporate culture, a larger company, in most cases probably wouldn't have seen the light of day. And it was those people's love and passion and just willingness to sort of birth their ideas in the world that sort of gave us all something new. And that is my version of innovation and my take on innovation. I'm obviously very biased, and I don't want to take away any of the amazing stuff that well-established brands and big companies given us, because I use those things every day, 20 times a day. I'm very happy with all of them. So.
Oh, it's okay. I would totally agree that they don't innovate nearly as much as I would like to see, but that's kind of the more defensive strategy. Once you're up there, it's a little easier.
Yeah, I think they like to say that they're innovative and they're doing innovative stuff. It's just, usually, what I find is once they're at the apex, and I think a lot of people tend to just kick back and stick with a business model that they have, or stick on a product that they have that sticks. And there's that boy or girl sitting out there somewhere that they'll probably never meet. It's crafting the next best thing, and nobody knows it yet.
You mean the iPhone 6 isn't going to be life-changing?
I don't know. Who knows? I would love to think that it would be, although I would certainly be surprised if it was.
So you've been an awesome guest today, Jamie. I've got one last question before I let you go and get back to changing the world.
Sure.
So what I wanted to focus on was really just a generic piece of advice. What would you say to entrepreneurs, bootstrapped people that are working on funding their businesses? They're trying to build their dream into something that can really sustain them. What would your piece of advice, your quote, something you'd want to say to them that would really help them push forward in their business and take it to the next level?
Again, I guess there's really no short version with me on any of these things. For me, I kind of lone wolfed it for a while, for a very long time, in fact. And, it was really just kind of banging my head up against the wall. A lot of things I was doing, it started to get too big for any one person to really, monitor all the time and do all the things I was doing. So, really brought in key people and people that I trust, to help carry the weight and take on different responsibilities. And I think that would be my advice going forward is, get a team and start with a team that you're really happy with. Identify who does what and who does what well, and kind of identify where your weaknesses are. And then that way you can go ahead and fill the gaps together.
Well, I thought that was going to be the last question, but I guess it's not. I didn't realize you started this on your own and now you have a co-founder. How does that work? How does the relationship of taking something when you've already created a product, created a business, and taking somebody on work? What's kind of the situation?
Probably easier than you think. It sort of goes like this for me. Hey, I think you're the bee's knees at this. I love doing stuff with you. Do you want to do stuff together? Sure.
Okay, so you broed it out and it all worked out well.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a lot more formal than I'm making it sound. But at the end of the day, I just looked inside of my network and picked people that I trusted and I knew would do well in the roles and asked them if they wanted to come on board.
And you've been pretty helpful. You've been pretty awesome for being on the show today. I want to give you a sec. Pitch your Kickstarter campaign. Tell people why they should buy from you and really what your message is, what Bower Bags is all about, and why it can help people.
Sure, it's a complicated system, so I'll try to actually keep this one short for you. So Bower Bags is the most versatile modular carrying system on the market. You can design it for your lifestyle. It's inspired by people with an active lifestyle, and we encourage you to go on there and make it yours. We have an online 3D printing database where you can choose your own materials to attach your own accessories to your bag, and you can go ahead and actually build your own bag, even right there through Kickstarter, or pick through one of our package tiers to have the bag that's just right for you and your lifestyle and how you like to travel.
So you guys heard it here first. It's completely original. It's completely individualized. Create anything you want and carry your shit in the best way possible. Thanks so much for being on the show today, Jamie. If people want to reach out to you, where's the best place for them other than Kickstarter to come and say hey?
Yeah, they can check out our site at Bower Bags, www.bowerbags.com, and there is an email section, which is info@bowerbags.com.
Okay, awesome. And we will have all of that in the show notes, businessandbootstrapping.com. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys, and thanks so much, Jamie, for hopping on the program. If there's anything I can do to help you out, just let me know.
Thanks, Matt. It's been great. Thanks for catching up with us.
Yeah, cheers. See you guys. Guys, I just want to say thanks for tuning in to another episode of the B&B Podcast. I hope you really enjoyed the interview today and got something that's really going to transform your business. If you're interested in getting more interviews like these and some other bootstrap business and branding advice, you can head on over to businessandbootstrapping.com to check out our blog. If you want more, be sure to subscribe and get our free productivity guide with 7 useful strategies to help you when growing your business. And hope to see you guys again soon. And of course, as always, if you guys enjoyed the episode and you want to be freaking awesome, would love a 5-star review in iTunes if you can take the time. Thanks so much, guys.